Joining me now, we have Princeton University economist Alan Blinder. Alan Blinder, you heard the Canadian finance minister. He's talking about technology and transfer of foreign direct investment. What role does the flow of capital that seems to move without borders around the world, what role does that play in any kind of austerity program? Because if you drop interest rates, that means that people don't necessarily want to own your currency, right?
Usually, but not always.
Right.
There are many instances where a central bank, it's happened in the United States several times, drop the interest rates. The market says, now the economy will get better. We have a better outlook for investment. Let's buy dollars or Canadian dollars or British pounds or whichever country it was. So we do teach it to students the way you just said. But it doesn't always work that way.
All right, so if it doesn't always work that way, why do you have governments around the world, at least some of them, pitching austerity as a way to dig out from an economic malaise?
Yeah, you know, if Keynes were here, he'd be turning in his grave. I wish I knew the answer to that. In the United States anyway, and maybe in England, it looks like a kind of Puritan instinct, like there must be something bad about spending your way out of a problem, like it's like binge drinking or something. I don't know what, to tell you the truth, what's going through some of these people's minds, but I thought we've known since the 1930s, and indeed I thought the 1930s was a great demonstration of it, that you can spend your way out of the Depression, and indeed, not entirely, but you can give the economy a boost. And indeed, if you don't do that, if you stick to what back in the 1930s was called the Treasury view in England, apparently it's still the Treasury view in England, you were dooming yourself to longer and longer recession. This is one of the things Keynes was writing about in the 1930s. And now we're seeing it sort of as the gospel in Europe. Now, some countries preach it more than they practice it, but some countries are definitely practicing it, and we've got lots of people in America. Is
it the nature that there's a desire not to reward profligacy?
I think there's some of that, yeah. And in this case, there's probably a lot of that. After all, we were binging here in the United States. We were binging on housing. We were binging on derivatives. We were binging on a lot of things that we never should have done. And, you know, the vengeful god of finance slapped everybody down. You know, and you could take the attitude, well, we deserved it, we should suffer as a result. That's never been my attitude and the attitude of lots of other people, except we did deserve it. But nonetheless, lots of Americans, there are 315 million of us. How many people do we actually think were involved in these financial shenanigans? A few thousand? So the other 315 million should suffer along because of that? I mean, you know, this doesn't make sense to me.
I want to thank you very much. Alan Blinder joining us, economics professor at University of Princeton, former vice chairman of the Federal Reserve, Council of Economic Advisors, and the author of After the Music Stopped: The Financial Crisis, the Response, and the Work Ahead.